The SENSEable City Lab was started at the end of 2004, and we're looking at the big change that's happening to our cities. If you think about it, over the past 2 decades or so, we've seen our urban environments getting more and more covered with different types of digital technologies. Computers had shrunk, became mobile. We all have one in our pockets. You can embed sensors in your environment, in the roads, in urban furniture, in cars. Network connectivity is available everywhere. If you think about it, it's almost like there is a blanket of digital connectivity that has covered our urban environment. Now, this is dramatically changing the way we can understand and design and also intervene in our cities. Think about capturing information about dynamics, about flows. Where are people? Where are the goods? What's the air quality around the corner? Where is there public transport? You can understand that today in real time. You can process this information, cross it with another type of data set. Where is the public transport? Where are the people, for example? Merge the two, and then feed this information, feed the result back into the city, so the city can become smarter in a sense. You can give it back to people so that people can make smarter decisions as they move around, consume, pollute, etc. But also you can feed it back into the infrastructure so that the infrastructure can synchronize, can become more efficient. So we're looking at a radical change in the urban environment. The city is almost becoming like a computer in the open air that we can start to program. Now, an interesting question is, who should program it? Is it just the city hall, the mayor? Is it the big service providers for the city, like the big IT companies or transportation service providers, the waste management companies, the emergency responders? Maybe it's the citizens as well. Maybe we're going into an age where our capacity to intervene is increased by so much that every startup or an NGO or a neighborhood could start writing the software that will service its community, its own environment. That's an interesting prospect, I think. To explore the integration of digital technologies and the built environment, at the SENSEable City Lab, we partner with different cities around the world, 4 different continents, as well as private sector entities, from the large network service operators, utilities, companies in transportation, big banks, healthcare service providers, infrastructure managers, and together we address a challenge in each of those places. We explore, we come up with a big question of saying, how could technology help us enable this or that? We work on anything from waste removal for public transportation, interpersonal interactions, supply chains, and then we do something like a proof of concept, what we call an urban demo. An intervention that uses technology and engages with the people to address the challenge that we identify in that place. I'll give a couple of examples. In Seattle, starting late 2009 until today, we're exploring the movement of waste and its treatment. Waste removal systems have been improving quite a bit over the past century, but still we have very little understanding of how different things move through the systems as they become more and more complex. Take, for example, the recycling of electronics. It's becoming a more and more acute problem these days, and we know that it has different types of metals and pollutants if you dispose of it the wrong way. Yet treating it is a challenge. It's costly, and locating those objects for collection is not as simple. So what we've done is partner with Waste Management. It's a big waste removal company in Seattle. It's the biggest in the world, or in the US at least. Qualcomm, who developed a communications technology. They helped us develop a little sensor, which is almost like a stripped down cell phone. It can tell you anywhere in the world where it is based on a single charge. You charge it once and it works for 1 year, telling you where it is all over the world. And invited 500 households there in Seattle to collect trash. And in the recent parts of the project, we've been focusing on electronic waste particularly. So imagine you take this little sensor, you staple it onto your piece of waste, whether it's a used up DVD or a laptop computer, a CRT monitor as well, which is particularly polluting. Throw it away. and then starts beaming where it is, like tweeting its location. We map it, and it takes usually several months till it reaches its final destination. Then we ask, well, how far did it travel? Has it reached the right processing facility? Is there something we can do to improve that process? And we've seen sometimes that electronic items might travel several thousand kilometers, up to 6,000 kilometers before they hit recycling. And then, immediately a question rises: what's the damage due to emissions from transportation versus the advantages of recycling in terms of environmental impact? So that's one thing we've studied, and we're continuing to explore further. In another project that we're doing in Singapore, called Live Singapore, we're looking at what is the computational system we need to develop, almost like the urban operating system that we need to put in place to allow for all this data that's emerging, whether it is from smart grids or public transportation system like the GPS systems that are always online, cell phone networks that tell us things about how people move in an aggregated way, sensors that they have there in the ground. All these types of data could give us so much value in terms of managing the city better if they could be crossed. They could come together somehow, if you could analyze one versus the other. But for that to happen, you need to have a system where you could actually plug your data pipe, something that would push data in real time that's location relevant. It doesn't exist today. The internet is not fitted well to enable that. So we're looking at what type of, you can call it augmentation to the internet, or what kind of new computational middleware needs to be developed for third-party applications to be able to access data in real time, data flows from the city. On top of this, we're developing different types of applications to make the point that there is value in crossing different types of data, so that people would want to contribute their data, so that governments would understand, would want to incentivize or maybe fund the building of these types of platforms. This platform should be probably distributed, not held in one place. There are quite a few interesting challenges there. The project there is called Live Singapore. It's part of a bigger project called Future Mobility, funded by NRF in Singapore, that we share with several other research groups at MIT. And the main point of this project is to look at how could mobility of the Live Singapore project is to look at how mobility could improve. How could you get, for example, extra capacity, which is crucial in Singapore, not through building more, but through using smarter information? Then there could become a critical infrastructure. Well, there's one big change that is in technology. So technology needs to allow those different streams of data to actually connect. So I think the primary change technology-wise is seeing something like the internet overlaying itself with our physical environment. Imagine you had an API, it's a slightly technical term, but sort of an application interface for third-party applications to be able to connect to different physical things in the city. So if you wanted to, for example, write software that could, for example, connect between waste removal systems and concentrations of waste in different areas, you want to be able to capture the data about where is the waste through, say, sensors you distribute in the environment, and where are the waste removal vehicles. If there would be an application layer that would allow these two data sets to be accessible, so that entrepreneurs and NGOs and different citizens, city halls, would be able to actually write the apps that analyze the data and make propositions, make suggestions for how to service better, how to pick up that waste at the right place in the right way, with the right size of a car, right capacity. The technology needs to evolve in that sense. So this is one big change I think we're going to see. Another one is a change in terms of governance. So if you suddenly have citizens, or let's say bottom-up organization, it could be a for-profit or a non-profit, it could be a large or small organization, but if suddenly capacity is brought further and further outside the central administration for servicing our environments, what does it mean for governance, right? How does the city hall suddenly incentivize participation? How do you make sure that people can actually make money off of this, or have a reason to play a role? Maybe have it funded. Another question is, how do you ensure equal access to service? How do you make sure that the different levels of socioeconomic profiles in terms of demographics in the city have access to high quality service, or to the same quality service? So many challenges that governments need to do in terms of regulating, in terms of incentivizing, when those services are then brought further and further outside. It also relieves the government from quite a bit of burden, so it will have more capacity to deal with these new challenges, or let's say enhanced challenges of governance. It already deals with it today, but it will become more and more the role of the governing body. And I think this is another fundamental change we'll see. Probably a third fundamental change would be in terms of citizenship. So what does it mean to be a citizen in a place where you can intervene at such a capacity? What is it like to be a citizen who knows, for example, what's the budget of a place in a very open and transparent way? How is it being allocated? How can I make proposals for allocating it in a better way? Even more so, take it further, if I could actually make a proposal for offering an urban service as a young entrepreneur, and have that become part of, say, the budget of the city, or become something that allows the city to function in a new way, it means I need to understand how the systems in the city work, how it's been working before, what impact it's going to have on my environment. So I become a much more engaged citizen, just in order to be able even to offer that kind of a service. It requires so much of me as a citizen. It opens a whole bunch of new doors for citizens in terms of their ability to understand their government, their ability to understand their environment, and makes it a whole. Let's put it another way. It's a broader base for participation. The city is a complex system, or a complex organizational system. It involves individuals, it involves infrastructure, it involves governments, it involves communities. Technology is an enabler there. It's not the goal, certainly, and it's not the bottleneck in terms of getting to this type of future city we're talking about. Technology has made fundamental progress in the past few decades, which allows us to think about reaching out to a much greater number of people, for soliciting for participation, for acquiring relevant data to make the city more efficient, for disseminating data to actually actuate the city to help people respond to real-time situation in a much smarter way. But in order to get there, technology would not be enough. It's the first time we can actually do it because of technology, but asking questions like, why should people participate? What about safety and security of data? What about the changes that need to happen to government systems in order to enable that? Those, what we call people problems, seem to be at least as fundamental on the way to get to such a place. So while the technology is getting there, I think we're slightly further behind today when it comes to enabling that kind of smart or more integrated participation of citizen versus infrastructure versus government versus how the built environment is planned. This kind of ecosystem, to enable it, we need to bring on board the people, whether it is the citizen or the government or those private sector entities that service our environment. I've seen new things come out of everywhere recently. I mean, this idea of a responsive city, of an augmented physical digital city, some people call it smart city, is now beyond the realm of one discipline. If you want to understand the city, you need to understand technology, you need to understand people, you need to understand urban design, the planning of the built environment. So we're seeing multiple disciplines, multiple viewpoints coming together in order to address these issues. These would be from the industry, these would be from academia. We're seeing that in the NGO sector. I don't think it is limited to one sector at all. It's actually really exciting that so many views are coming together now in order to address that problem.